Faye, Sydney, Australia, and the language is English. This is tape 1.
My name is Judith Fahey, Judith Fahey, and I am interviewing Alina Jarvin, Alina Jarvin, in Sydney, Australia on April the 4th, 1995. Would you please say your name at birth and spell each word in the name?
My name at birth was Alina Gustava Potok, Alina, Alina, Gustawa, Gustava, Potok, Potok.
And your married name?
Is Jarvin, Jarvin.
When were you born, the date and your age now?
I was born on the 29th of October 1930, and I was 64 years old last October.
What was the city and country you were born in?
I was born in Będzin,
Spell that, please.
Bedzin, Poland.
Can you tell me something about Będzin, the place where you were born?
Yes, Będzin was a small industrial town close to the German border in near Katowice, in what's called Silesia. It was coal mine, there were lots of coal mines in that area. And Będzin had a very large Jewish population. I think more than half of the population was Jewish. There were very many poor families, poor Jewish families, and there were a few very wealthy Jewish industrialists living in that town, and there was quite a bit of big industry.
What was your family's role in this town?
My father was an industrialist. That's what he actually did. Was he with his brothers looked after the family various family businesses. The Potok fortune was made by my great-grandfather, the first Potok, Joachim David Potok, who was one of the first, I think, bankers in Poland. And then that went on to his sons, and then that went on to my father and his brothers, and there were numerous businesses. And father had an office in Katowice, and he commuted to Katowice and ran the Potok Empire, I think, from there.
What sort of industries were involved mainly?
It was oil and margarine factory. There was a timber yards with timbers for the coal industry, for the mines, for the coal mines, car representations. I'm not even sure of all the interests that were part of the Potok family.
What was your experience of your father as a child? Did you see very much of him?
my most vivid memory of my father is about a year before the war. I must have been 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old then, when my father took me away for the first time for a weekend, and that was the first time I spent alone with my father without, my father drove the car, we went without the chauffeur and without my governess, and we went to a very beautiful resort in Poland, to Krynice, and we stayed in a very luxurious hotel, and that was a very big, for me, that I remember this as a highlight of my pre-war days. I did not spend much time with my parents before the war. I was brought up by a German, first nanny, then governess, and even when I was away on holiday skiing and so on, I wasn't with my parents, I was with my governess always. And I know once, I think my parents happened to be in the same resort, but they stayed in a hotel. We did not stay. So that's about my memories.
Was there one particular governess who was perhaps like a mother to you?
No, I remember the one that I had when I was little. She was very, very close to me, and she must have been many years with me, and I was very attached to her. However, the one that came later, I don't remember liking very much. So I don't have any bad memories of her, but I just don't have any terribly fond memories of her.
Did you have any brothers and sisters?
No, I was the only child.
Were you around other children?
Yes, oh yes, I was going to school. I finished 3 years primary school, so yes.
What kind of school was it?
It was called a Hebrew gymnasium. It was a private school built by one of the industrialists in Benjin, and it was called Gymnasium in the name of Fürstenberg. That was the it still exists, it still is a school. It was a very beautiful school.
Can you describe the house you lived in as a child?
Well, I was born in a old family home. I think it was my grandfather's place where my father was born, and it was a big block of a big building with a courtyard in the middle. I don't think my memories of it are from when I was a child. However, during the war, before the ghetto, the offices of the Jewish I don't know what you call it, Judenverein, of the ones that were I don't know what they're called, was in that place. And I think my mother must have told me about being born in that building. But I do remember what must have been when I was 6 years old. We moved to a very nice villa, which actually was a duplex. Again, it didn't. It was built by a friends of my father, and we were just renting one floor, and they were living on the first floor, and we were living on the top floor. And my grandfather had an apartment on the ground floor. So
Do you remember what the furnishings were like? What kind
Yes,
of...
oh yes, I remember. I actually saw this place last year again, and it hasn't changed much. Yes, it was very modern. It was a there was a entrance hall, a big entrance hall. There was a lounge room with a terrace. There was a dining room. There was my parents' bedroom. There was my room, and I slept with my governess. There was a room which was called a cupboard room, which was a very big room with a big cupboard. There was
What was in the cupboards?
I don't remember, must have been linen, I think the ice chest was also in that big area. And then there was a bathroom with a toilet in it and another separate toilet. I remember I had special permission to use the toilet in the bathroom. There was a kitchen, and there was the cooks, the maids' room.
How many staff were there in the household?
Well, there were permanent live-in, 2, but there was a cleaning woman coming, a washerwoman coming, there was a chauffeur, and there was a caretaker in the building, so, but living in 2.
What kind of interests did you have as a child? What did you like doing?
I don't remember, really. I have no.
What sort of religious environment was it?
Well, at home there was none. However, my grandparents from my mother's side were religious, were Orthodox people. They lived in the same street a bit further away, and they owned a flour mill, and they lived in on the grounds. They had a house, and they observed all the holidays. I don't remember too much, but I must have been. I do have some memories of being to their place, and I remember they had the lounge room was never used, only for special occasions. I remember they sort of lived in more or less in one room, and there was this very beautiful room which was never opened, just for special occasions. That must have been the holidays that I had attended, but I don't remember too much about it. At school, in school, I was learning Hebrew. Hebrew was, although I don't think it was at school. I remember having lessons, private lessons of Hebrew at home. But whether it was to prepare me for school or, I'm not too sure, but I vaguely remember learning Hebrew at home. But my afternoons I actually was spending with my French teacher, and I spoke French. She had a daughter my age, and we talked, and that was my French lessons. And so at home I spoke German with my governess.
Did you speak Polish as well?
Yes, with my parents.
Do you remember Passover at all?
No, I don't remember any Jewish holidays from before the war. From my, it could only have been at my grandparents' place, because at home definitely. But I don't really remember anything about it.
Can you tell me what sort of relationship there was between Jews and non-Jews in Benjin?
I wouldn't know. I mean, I can only tell you about the war times. I can't tell you yes, I can tell you a little, yes, I might give you a little incident which might give you a bit of put some light on it. My father was, and both my father and my mother went to private schools, but not Jewish schools. Actually, my father was educated in Switzerland afterwards. And when the time came for me to be sent to school, apparently the best private school in Benjin approached my father, asking him to send me to their school. And my father said, no, I don't want my daughter to go to your school because of the anti-Semitism, to which they said to my father, but Mr. Potok, surely your daughter is not going to suffer from, not going to be subjected to any anti-Semitism. To which my father said, well, that's exactly the reason why I want her to go to a Jewish school. So there must have been quite a bit of tension and quite a bit of anti-Semitism for...
Were all the people you were around Jewish?
Yes.
Including the
Yes.
staff?
No, not the staff. None of the staff. None.
Was there any kind of difference between the staff and the Jewish people you were around? Were they treated differently or seen as different people?
Well, you've got to know the European before the war. Staff is staff. I mean, you can't. It was staff. But my biggest pleasure was when there was nobody around and I was allowed to eat in the kitchen with the cook. But
who was non-Jewish?
Yes.
What did you understand about being Jewish when you were a child? What did it mean?
It wasn't a problem. It wasn't something that I ever thought about, except that I think shortly before the war we had our windows broken, or somebody nearby had the window. I do remember incident, anti-Semitic incidents where a stone was thrown through the window.
Of your house?
Probably of my house, because otherwise I wouldn't remember it.
What do you remember happening?
Nothing. Just like I said it, nothing really. Just there must have been an incident, but I'm not even sure if it happened in our house, or maybe it happened in my grandparents' house, or it was talked about. I don't know. But that made me aware at the time that that there are some problems.
How were you first made definitely aware of the rise of Nazism?
Look, you're talking about an 8-9-year-old child. When the war, all I remember is I think I came back from a holiday, from school vacations. I'm not even sure of that. I remember being packed in the car and with my parents driven to Warsaw, because the war was starting and we were too close to the German border, and my parents thought that Warsaw, being the capital, will be defended, and so the whole family, actually, my father's family, gathered in Warsaw in the hope that that will be. And this I remember quite vividly. First, we stayed in a hotel for a very short period. That was my first time I think I saw an elevator.
Do you know when that was?
Yes, it must have been. The war started in September '43, so it was must have been either a day before the war, or a day, or the day the war started, or a day after the war. So it was either last day of August or first days of September.
Can you just clarify when the war started in Poland?
It started on the 1st of September 1939.
How did your life change when you moved?
Well, first we all, the whole family gathered in my uncle's apartment in Warsaw, where one room was sealed off completely because there was we were all scared of gas attacks. We were issued with gas, not masks, but I remember such tampons really, and I remember going into that sealed off room, but that didn't last very long. The family then all got on a truck, because the cars were confiscated. I think we couldn't, the army took away all the cars and there was shortage of petrol, but there was a truck and there was petrol for the truck, and the family got on a truck with very few belongings and drove east from Warsaw east, as the Germans were advancing, and as it looked that Warsaw will not be defended, we moved towards east. I remember the trip. I remember bombing on the way and having to sort of drive off the road and hiding and going into the field and crouching, and I remember staying overnight in peasants' places.
The whole family stayed there?
Yeah, well, different places, not all together, but I was with my mother and father, yes. Yes, I don't remember the rest.
People you knew, or?
What, that we stayed with? No.
They just took you in?
Yes, yes. I presume we had money still then, and so, yes.
Where were you heading?
We were heading east, running away from the Germans. And I don't know how far exactly we got, but we were caught by the Russians.
Can you tell me what happened with that?
Well, I don't remember exactly the changeover from running away and when the Russians came. The next thing I do remember is being in Lviv and under Russian occupation, living with my parents in a small room. I remember my bed was sort of screened off with a little screen, and I remember lots of goings on in that room. My parents discussing what to do and how to what to do next and how to so and then the next thing I remember is going towards trying to cross a border to get away to Lithuania, to Vilno. That must have been an escape route and this I also remember quite clearly. There were few members of the family, and they must have paid somebody to get us across the border. And the arrangement was that the first family will go, and when they send the okay, then the second will go. And we were the second family. And I do remember at night in the snow, walking through the snow, and I remember being delivered right into the hands of the Russian border. The peasants, they took the money, it was a record, they took the money and they delivered us into the hands of the Russian guards. I remember being in jail, meeting the other family, the first family that went through, that of course didn't make it either. And that's when we were separated from my father. And
what happened?
well, my father was then tried and sentenced to 5 years.
What was he tried for?
For crossing the border illegally, trying to escape from Russian. And he was given a sentence of 5 years in a labor camp and sent to Siberia. My mother and me were set free.
And what did you do?
We went back to Lviv, where there were still some members of the family.
Who was still there?
There was still an auntie, my father's sister, and her husband and her daughter. Them I remember because while my mother worked, I was having my meals at their place. I was going every day for a meal to their place. And then the Russians decided to resettle the people that were there, and one night they collected all the remaining members of my family, bundled them up, and took them to the railway station to send them deep into Russia. My mother and me weren't on the list. My mother wanted to go with the family. Remember, we even went to the railway station, but we weren't on the list, they didn't take us. So we stayed in Lviv, my mother and me, on our, just the two of us. By that time there was nobody from the family that we started off with left.
Alina, you were telling me you were in Lvov with your mother. Do you know how long you stayed there?
Well, we stayed there. The Germans took Lviv from the Russians.
Any idea when this happened?
Well, it must have been sometimes in 1941, but no, I don't know the day. And we were then for the first time under German occupation. My mother worked. There was no ghetto yet. We lived in a small room with a family. Soon afterwards, my mother's family from Benjin made some arrangements to have us brought back from Lviv to Benjin to be with my mother's family. And this I remember being taken back.
How did
to
you get
Benjin.
back?
My uncle in Benjin arranged for a German officer. He sent a German officer for us. We didn't go back together. I remember going back on my own and my mother coming later, I think. But it wasn't anything terribly eventful.
How can you explain a German officer escorting you back?
Well, it's, that there were decent people and helpful people. He was a friend of my uncle, or maybe he was paid a lot of money or whatever. I don't know. But all along the way I was helped by people. I can't explain, I can't tell you how, but that's how it was.
Do you remember the trip back from Lvov to Benjin?
No, I vaguely remember stopping in Krakow at some people's place, but no, it wasn't anything that was very memorable.
What happened when you returned to Benjin?
When we returned to Benjin, we joined my mother's family. My mother had her parents and one unmarried sister living with my grandparents, one sister married with a daughter older than me. So it was quite a big family, and my uncle Yusef, who sent for us, was really the head of the family. He was a very clever man, and he had a lot of connections, and I think he was still at the time running his own business for the Germans. So he was a kind of head of the family, and he was taking care of us. At first we lived in a part of the city which used to be the old Jewish part of the city, the very poor part, and all the Jews that lived all over had to move to this small part near the old square or whatever, near the synagogue. I think there was a synagogue that was burned down in 1941. I don't remember it. We must have come later than that to Benjin.
Was this a ghetto that was set up?
No, it wasn't a ghetto yet. It was called Jewish Judenviertel. It was called a Jewish part. It wasn't a ghetto yet. No.
What conditions were you living under there?
There were very cramped conditions. Well, there were. I remember living in few places. I remember living with my grandparents. I remember living with a family that had a daughter my age. I remember 3 or 4 places that we actually lived at. I think they kept on sort of squeezing us into smaller and smaller parts.
Who were you with in these places you lived?
with my mother. With my mother.
What belongings did you have with you?
Don't remember. Don't.
Do you remember anything your mother had?
Yes, I do. I remember. Yes, I remember what my mother wore, because my mother had a. Yes, I remember my mother had a fur coat, which was not outside fur, but inside fur, a fur in her, under her coat. And when the furs had to be, when all the furs had to be given to the Germans, my father's old tailor made out of a traveling rug a lining for my mother for her coat, and he also made a blazer out of that. So I do remember that, and I remember, and my mother also had a gold chain which she wore round her neck twice around her neck. That's the only. And the only other thing I remember is, I don't remember any clothes, any possessions, any toys, anything. No, I don't remember anything. My mother worked. My mother worked in the Jewish administration, and I was I was going for my meals to my uncle and aunt's place for my main meals. And at first they lived outside that Jewish part. They still lived where his business was, and then they moved in. And I used to go for meals there. And I remember because it was quite a long walk, and on the way there, because I had to wear I wore a star, I was accosted by little children who would throw stones at me and say, "You there, you there, you there." So that I remember quite vividly. And so then from there, the ghetto was formed. Again, it must have been 1942, end of 42. The ghetto was formed, and the ghetto was outside Benjin. It actually was. It was in a place that was called Kamionka. There were just few shacks, I think, it wasn't a Jewish part of the city at all. I think it was just I don't know who lived there before, but it certainly must have been very, very poor people. And
can you describe being sent there? What happened the day you were sent?
No, well, before we actually were sent there, there were lots of there were things happening all the time. There were people being sent to labor camps. There are people being caught, and I remember vividly one day when we all had to appear. We all had to go to a sports field. We all had to assemble on the sports field. That was before the ghetto yet. And on that sports field, there was a selection. And
did you understand what was happening?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Tell me what happened.
Well, we all dressed in our best clothes, and we all had to assemble on that field. There were Germans with, I don't know if with dogs, I think with dogs, but I'm not too sure. There were also Jewish, I remember the two Jews which were the heads. One was a woman who was
What was she doing?
helping in the selection. And we had to pass through a thing, and we were told left or right. And the next thing I remember is my grandparents being separated from us. And it took a whole day, and and my grandparents were taken from us, and I remember then my mother and my uncle rescuing them from, because that was the group that was going to be taken to Auschwitz.
How did you know they were going to be taken to Auschwitz?
I don't know, somehow we knew, because we were so close to Auschwitz, actually.
What was being said officially? What were you told officially was going to happen?
I don't know what was officially. It wasn't.
What did you know of Auschwitz at that time?
That it was that whoever was going there should be rescued. I have no concepts of it, what I thought at that time. All I know that my grandparents were rescued. They were.
How were they rescued?
I don't know. But they were taken away, and then they were somehow released, and so that was still before the ghetto. But from what I've learned now from a documentary made about Benjin, there were 5,000 people sent on that day to Auschwitz, which, I mean, I didn't know it until I saw this documentary just recently, on that particular day. So, and then we were, anyway, the ghetto was, we had to all move to the ghetto. So it was still my grandparents, and the whole family was still actually intact. And even though the conditions were dreadful, I remember it as rather good times. You know, I had no problems with it. I was very happy there. It was
What was good?
We were together. We were all together. I had my friends still. I remember that was my first time I was interested in a boy, and he was working somewhere. I remember trying to always walk around when he was.
What was he like?
He was a couple of years old, a very good-looking boy, and so to me the memories of the ghetto are actually very good memories, because I was eating either at my grandparents' place or my auntie's place or neighbor's place. Now we had a room under the roof, my mother and me, and it was a very slopey room, so in only one little part could you stand up, and in the other you couldn't, and there was just a bed, and there was a wardrobe, like made one. And what my mother had done is that the last piece of that the wardrobe was not right against the wall, but a little bit more forward from the wall. So there was a space behind the wardrobe, and the wardrobe had another door. So whenever there was a action, what they were called, akcja.
Is that a bombing?
No, that was when they were dragging Jews out. There was no bombing at the time. There were, which there was, when they were dragging Jews out just grabbing them and sending them, which was quite regular. And we usually had a warning that something is going to happen because somebody knew somebody, and or you would hear the Germans coming, and so I remember going into that, through that cupboard, into that little space, and hiding there. But you know, again, I was with my family. I was with my mother, but this hiding place was okay for just, but it wasn't really a very good hiding place. Wasn't considered a good hiding place. And a friend, my mother had a boyfriend at the time whom I dearly loved, wonderful, wonderful. And where he lived and where his family lived, they had built a really proper hiding place. And their hiding place was in the cellar, where you dug away the coal or the coke, whatever. Then there was a tunnel underneath, and then you came out, and you came out in another part of the cellar, which was, but somebody had to stay outside to cover it up with to close it off. And then that hiding place had just a small window, but that was a hiding place for a lot of people. It was like ours was just really was not a, I remember being few times in ours, but but then one day my mother must have had word that there's going to be a bigger something, a bigger action or whatever, and we went to this friend's hiding place I remember I was dressed in my best clothes. It was a navy skirt and a navy little jacket, and I must have worn something over it where the star was, because you had to have on each garment the star. But I think that this jacket had a star too, but it was sewn very loosely. I remember vaguely something about it. And we were, this friend of my mother's took us in there, and he was in the ghetto police or ghetto, the ghetto. He was one of the workers because the ghettos were supposedly self-governed. You know, all the Jewish things were self-governed. So the Germans were just giving were just coming and taking people out. But there was a form of self-government, and like they had to supply so many people to. That's how it worked, and we finished up in this hiding place, and I remember being, I don't know how long we were there, but must have been quite long. There were some children there, and there were...
Long in terms of days, hours?
No. Long, I would say, in terms of hours. I would say more like 12 hours, or because it was a small place, and there were lots of people. Well, there was no atmosphere. You had to be quiet. There was no atmosphere.
Could you hear what was happening?
Yes,
outside?
I think we could. Anyway, I remember there was a lot of panic because child started to cry, So anyway, the next thing I do remember is rifles being pushed through the windows and shots being fired inside, and we were all brought out from the hiding place, and were all put against the wall, and some people were shot. My mother
Did you see that happen?
Yes. My mother and the rest of the people, and they were coming from all over the place, because that was the day when the ghetto was being cleared of all the Jews. That was the final.
Who was doing the shooting?
The German, the German, whatever, the SS. So I really don't know it. The German, and then we were all marched towards the railway station.
This is the liquidation of the ghetto?
Yes, that was the liquidation of the ghetto.
How far were you marched?
I don't think it was more than a kilometer. I don't think so, because the whole place is small. Maybe it wasn't even that far. Anyway, by the time we got close to the railway station, the road was all blocked with people. I mean, there were thousands of people, and they were being loaded on the trains, the earlier, and the others we just had to. We were waiting in that.
Were they all Jewish people?
They were all Jewish people, yes, only Jewish people. Now, on that day, non-Jews were not allowed to venture on the street. The street was, the streets were, there was no
curfew.
There was a curfew on in the whole town. Nobody on the streets. And as we were standing in the waiting there, my mother, who took off the chain, the gold chain, and put it on my neck, and my mother kept on going to the German guards saying, "This is not a Jewish child, let her go. She's not Jewish." My mother had a photo of her ex-brother-in-law, who was a German, and in uniform, and of my cousin, his daughter, and she was showing that photo to the Germans, saying, this is her father. She's not Jewish, let her go, let her go. She gave me that photo, and I was allowed to go and fetch water from across the road. There was a tap. It's still there, I saw it this last year. And I kept on going once or twice, bringing water, and a girlfriend of mine was with me, and the tap was next to a block of sort of, not barracks, they were workers' apartments. And my mother said, don't come back, just go. And that's what we did. We walked into the block of into the staircase, and there were somewhere, somehow, we weren't, nobody went after us. I remember running away, maybe somebody was after us and we managed to escape. It was a big development and we walked out through the other end. But the problem was that on that day there was nobody allowed on the streets. So what, I mean, it was just so the nearest place to go, my girlfriend said, is her parents' maid or cook or whatever lived not too far away, and we might be able to sneak through to her place, which we did. And when she saw us, she said, "Look, I can take Zesha, but I can't let you in. It's you've got to go somewhere else."
Who was the person you were speaking to there?
That was the cook of my girlfriend's family, employee or cook, or maybe.
Can we just go back for a moment, back to the station? What do you remember of seeing your mother last? What was the scene at that station?
Nothing, just...
What were the words she said to you?
I don't remember. Just gave me the chain and just said, "You run away, you go." That's all. I don't really remember anything in particular. That's what I think she said, but it's not that I remember she said anything in particular. No.
Okay, what happened at the girlfriend's place?
Well, I left my girlfriend at her maid's place and made arrangements with her that the following day we will meet in a spot, and I in the meantime will go and look where I can, who will look after me. And I went then to my first nanny.
How old were you at this time?
I was 12, and I wasn't 13 yet. It was 2 months before my 13th birthday.
And where was this nanny? Where did she live?
In Benjin. And I went to her place, and I remember she let me in. She seen it was a big photo of me in her lounge room. She had family. She wasn't my last one. She was the one that I liked, that was many years with me.
What was her name?
I don't know what her name was, but I called her Detta. I don't exactly remember what. Don't know her.
Can you just tell me what sort of person she was?
I don't know what sort of person she was. I liked her very much. I was very attached to her.
What happened when you went there? Was she there?
Well, she was there and she let me in, but she said she can't keep me there because she risks her family, her child. She risks her life, and she just, I have to go. I can't stay there. And so I had to leave there.
Australia on April the 4th, 1995, and this is the third tape. Alina, you were telling me about seeking refuge with your nanny, your former nanny, who couldn't keep you. Can you just clarify when this would have been and what happened after that?
It was in August 1943, after the Benjin ghetto was made Judenrein, after the liquidation of Benjin ghetto. So from the nanny I went to our chauffeur. Now, our chauffeur now at our chauffeur's place, his name, don't remember his name. Now at his place was a letter which came from Berlin, from my cousin, who tried to keep in touch with my mother in the ghetto through the chauffeur who was outside the ghetto. And that was my cousin who was on the photo with her father in German uniform. And she lived in Berlin. She was married with a small child, and she lived in Berlin. And in that letter, my cousin said that she's so sorry that she can't do much, but at least she would like to have, if she could only have me with her, something to that extent. Anyway, the chauffeur said that he can't keep me. There's no way that I can stay with him. That my only, the only way I can survive is to go to my cousin to Berlin, and she will take care of me. I had no money, of course, and to get from Benjin to Berlin, you had to first go on a tram to Katowice, and on a train, I think I went on a tram, and then from Katowice there was a train to Berlin. Now, the chauffeur offered to give me money for the train ticket in return for the gold chain that my mother gave me. And so I got some money for the train ticket. I gave him the chain, and
was that a fair deal? Looking at that now, was that a fair deal?
No, it wasn't.
How did you feel at the time?
I don't know how I felt at the time. There was no choice. It's not a. How can you? This is not something that you weigh up. That's you do it. It's not. You don't have a opportunity to. And besides, I wasn't even 13 years old then. I got money for the train. That's all I know. But
How were you able to travel to Berlin?
Well, this is what I wonder by myself often, but I do have some memories of the trip. I remember coming to Katowice and buying a ticket to Berlin.
Did you have some kind of ID?
No, I
Were
had
you
no
asked for
paper
it?
whatsoever. Well, obviously wasn't asked for it because I might have had some story. I don't know. I don't remember. All I know that I bought the ticket myself, because that I remember. And I remember being on the train, and I remember at that time the Poles weren't traveling. It was only Germans were allowed to travel. That part, Benjin, Poland was divided, and Benjin was attached to the German Reich. the other part of Poland was called Generalgouvernement, and there was a border, but Będzin was part of the German, became part of the German Reich. So, but traveling, only Germans were traveling, and I vaguely remember being sort of sitting with a family and sort of telling everybody that I'm going to my auntie and to my uncle in Berlin, and I've got this address, and I've got this letter, and I've got this photo, and I'm going to be with my uncle in Berlin. And I remember my sort of fright when I was told, but there are 3 railway stations in Berlin. Where do you get? Where are you going? Where do you get off? Anyway, somebody must have helped me, because I do remember arriving at my cousin's apartment in Berlin.
Can you describe what happened when you arrived there?
Yes, she received me very, very nicely. She seemed very happy to see me. She was married, and she had a small child, a baby, maybe not quite a year old, maybe 2 years old. It was a very young child. And I remember being in her apartment. It was a very nice apartment. She also had a mother-in-law, but it didn't last very long. That was the time in Berlin when the first big air raids started in Berlin, and there were air raids practically every night. Now, as I had no identity card, nothing, I could not go into the air raid shelter. I had to stay on my own in the apartment. But very soon after I arrived, women and children were evacuated from Berlin because of the air raids. And my cousin, with her child and her husband, left for a place that somewhere to the country, and left me behind in the apartment with her mother-in-law coming and bringing me food, and a friend coming occasionally and taking me out. I remember once going bicycling on a bicycle with him.
But you were living alone in this apartment?
Yes,
as a 13-year-old?
Yes, I was living alone. But that living alone wasn't so bad. It was the air raids at night, which this is something which that's the only time that I remember feeling terrified. That's, from all the memories, this is my most vivid memory of being terrified. And even now, when there are fireworks, I can't stand it. I get
Was there anyone you could go to for help?
No, there was nobody. I wasn't allowed to go to I couldn't go to the air raid shelter because nobody was allowed to know that I'm there. Everybody had to be registered in a building.
Were you living in that apartment in secret?
Yes, yes.
No one knew you were there except those
knew.
2 people who came?
Except those 2 people that were.
Was your cousin living on false papers?
No. My cousin's mother was Jewish, was my father's sister, and her father was. My cousin's mother changed her faith. I think she became Lutheran when she married, but they divorced. And she actually had remarried, and she was sent to Russia. She was in Lviv, etc., and she was sent to Russia. So my cousin was actually with her. She was not Jewish, my cousin, because she was brought up in not as a Jew, and of course her father was protecting her. He had quite a high, I don't know what he was, but he was quite a high official. I think he was a Gauleiter, which was not in Gestapo or SS or anything like that, but in the he had a high position. And so my cousin was what's called a Mischling, but because there was no trace of her Jewish family anywhere, and it was only her father that, and her name was von Helferich, which is a noble German. So she actually, she wasn't 100% safe, but she was protected by her father. And so that's those times in that flat were quite horrendous for me. That was something that I remember one night. Like everything was burning around me, and then this friend of my cousin came finally, and I wasn't alone anymore. But it was just horrendous being on my own through the area. Anyway, I don't think it lasted very long. I really don't think the whole thing lasted more than maybe 3 weeks. It couldn't have been, because but I do remember that a letter came from my cousin. I don't know if it came to me or if it came to her mother-in-law. I think more likely to her mother-in-law. And in that letter, she said that I've got to, that her father, whose apartment it is, does not want me in that apartment, and I've got to go, because if I don't go, he is threatening to disown his daughter, something like that. Something that's what sticks in my mind. And well, there was of course no talk of my cousin asking me to join her. I didn't know where she was in the country. No, there was just I had to go.
What did you do?
Well, now I have to go back to the ghetto times to give you a little bit of a background to what happened then. In the ghetto, as I told you, my uncle was taking care of the family, and he had very good connections, and he must have been earning money still, and he had a daughter who was older than me, and he arranged for her forged papers, Aryan papers, and he arranged for her to go to Warsaw and live in Warsaw on Aryan papers, on forged papers. So that's how he took care of his daughter. Now, for me, because I was too young, I couldn't go and live on Aryan papers on my own. He was trying to arrange to place me with some peasants in the country for money. And he was dealing with a man, I think it must have been a German, or it was a Volksdeutsch, it's not really important. This man was working at IG Farbenindustrie in Auschwitz, and he was a friend of my uncle, and he told my uncle that he can help him outside, but once That's how we knew about Auschwitz, I suppose, because I remember knowing. But once he said, you get to Auschwitz, there's nothing I can do for you. And that's what happened, actually. My uncle didn't survive, even with the man that he knew. Anyway, this man was arranging for me to be sent somewhere to the country for money and to be hidden in the country.
This man worked in Auschwitz.
He worked for he worked for IG Farben industry, for the big industrial.
Do you know what sort of work he did?
Well, he must have been pretty high up in the office. Pretty high up in the office. And
so did you contact him?
yeah, well, my mother must have given me all the particulars before I ran away, because I did contact the man from Berlin. I contacted the man at IG Farben industry in Auschwitz, and I told him I'm coming.
How did you contact him?
Well, again, must have been helped by the mother-in-law of my cousin, or maybe by the friend of my cousin. Somebody must have helped me. They must have contacted him by phone. I don't know, but all I know that I went on the train to meet this man who was waiting for me.
From Berlin?
From Berlin, I went by train to Auschwitz to meet the man who was waiting for me. He was waiting for me on the station.
Which station?
Well, my memory, it was Auschwitz, but it wasn't Auschwitz camp. It was, I don't know.
At the village of Auschwitz?
I don't know. I don't remember that. I just remember meeting the man, and the next thing I remember is the man taking me to his office at IG Farben industry, and that I remember quite vividly.
Do you remember where the office was?
I remember it was close to the wires.
Did you see the
I could see
camp?
the wires, and I could see the camp.
And did you know what it was?
Yes.
What could you see?
No, I just saw people in striped, but I just saw a camp. I also, I remember spending a night there in the office, sleeping on the table. And I remember in the morning, Czech, Slovak girls coming to work in the office there. And that was like the elite, because I don't think that they didn't have shorn hair or anything. And I remember it was already getting cold. I ran away in August. Say September I was in Berlin, so it must have been October already. And it was cold, and I had no warm clothes. Now, really, up till today, what I hold against my cousin is not that she didn't keep me, because she was risking her life, but that she let me go without any money and without any clothing. So this is the only thing that I really hold against her, that she should have given me everything she had. But I literally left there the way I stood. I remember the girls giving me something warm to wear, whether it was a scarf or whether it was, I don't remember what it was, but this is in my mind. That.
Do you remember that she had things she could have given you?
Oh, she lived a normal life. She lived an absolutely normal life in a normal apartment. She wasn't they weren't poor.
You're in the office with...
I was in the office.
Do you know the name of the man?
No, I've been trying to remember it, but I just don't remember. Now the man took me to the country.
And he knew exactly who you were.
He knew exactly who I was. I must have known him. I must have met him. Maybe I met him or I knew him from stories, but he knew exactly who I was, and he was prepared. He was expecting that I would come. The only thing was that he was expecting that I would come with money. So
did he expect to be paid?
I don't know if he expected to be paid, or if the people that were to hide me were expected to be paid. I think more likely the people that were going to hide me, that he was going to pay the people to hide me. I don't think it was him, because you don't do this kind of thing for money. It's too you don't risk your life for it's rather the people where he was going to place me. They were going to be paid.
So what did this man do with you?
Well, he took me to a place way away up in the somewhere in the mountains, not in the Tatras, in some other part of Poland, in the low mountains, to wasn't even a village. It was miles away from a village.
Any idea what direction, where it was near?
Yes, I know. I remember the place was called Hucisko near Jeleśnia, koło Jeleśni, and I tried to find it on a map. It does. I don't know exactly where it was, but those peasants were away from they really didn't know anything. They didn't know, they had never seen a German, because it was so isolated, absolutely isolated. He told them that I was a Polish officer's daughter, that the Polish officer fighting for his fatherland was taken prisoner or whatever, and something like that I remember. And with those peasants, I remember sharing a bowl. The main meal was one big bowl of potatoes with buttermilk or sour milk poured over it, and we all ate from that one bowl together. I remember looking after cows. That also I was petrified of cows. I was scared that they'll run away into the forest, and that I'll lose a cow. I was very, very scared. But I do remember being out with the cows.
So you had to work for your food and shelter?
I don't know if I had to work. I was just part of it. I mean, it wasn't. I think everybody worked. They were very poor people.
How did they treat you?
Good, quite good. I don't have any unpleasant memories. Quite the contrary. I remember having a nice bed. I think. No, they treated me very good.
How long did you stay there?
I don't think terribly long. I don't think it could have been more than maybe a month again.
What happened?
The man that placed me there came and visited me, and he told me that he's having problems. He's got to pay those people, and he can't pay them. He can't. Do I have any? Do I know anything about any money anywhere? He said, no, I have no money. I know nothing about money. However, in my cousin's apartment in Berlin, there is a Persian rug that belonged to my parents, that came from our home. Because my cousin, when the Germans came and we ran away, I think she saved few things from the apartment. This Persian rug that was my parents was in her bed. So that's all I've got, and that's all I can. So we can write to Berlin and get the rug, and so I remember he must have written, or I must have written to Berlin, to the address to where I was staying, where the rug was, but no answer ever came. And I think came back, no answer ever came from there. So it must have taken few weeks to know that there was. And so that's when he came again, and he told me, look, you can't stay here. You've got no papers. You've got no. They're not going to. I can't tell the people who you are. They don't want to keep you without money. It costs, because they're poor people. You've got to go.
Do you think the man needed that Persian rug and needed your money, or was he making use of you?
I don't think the man made use of me, because I think the way the man behaved, I don't think he. I think in all my story, I would say he was one of the biggest heroes, because he actually was with me. He visited me. He was with me. So no, I would say that with all the people that helped me, and he was one of those that. But well, he took risks by even being with me, coming to see me. So. No, I believe that those people now, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure that they only agreed to keep me for money, because of the poor peasants. I mean, I wasn't much of a worker, so it's not that I could contribute anything very much. So why should they take risks and and it wasn't because I was Jewish, because they didn't know that I was Jewish. So it was just, it was wartime. The Poles were also.
Okay, so what happened after you could not stay there
well,
any longer?
Then there was the only one thing that I haven't yet. Like I said, my uncle in the ghetto has sent his daughter, my cousin, to Warsaw on forged papers, on Aryan papers. My cousin was at least, must have been 8 or 10 years older than me, and she lived in Warsaw, and she had all the necessary papers to live in Warsaw. And I had the address where she can be contacted.
This is a different cousin.
It's a Jewish cousin.
Yes.
That's the cousin from the ghetto. And so I told the guy that my only way is to get to Warsaw and find my cousin.
1945, and this is the fourth tape. Alina, you were telling me you had a cousin in Warsaw, you believed, who you might be able to contact. How did you go about contacting her?
Well, the man that from Auschwitz that took me to the country helped me by, you see, I told you before that Poland was divided up to that. I was in the part of Poland that was annexed to Germany, so I didn't cross any borders yet. But to get to Warsaw, I had to cross a border from the Reich, the German Reich, to the Generalgouvernement, which was Poland under occupation. And I remember the man helping me get across the border. I don't exactly know who was involved and how it was involved, but I do remember that I had to cross a border, and he got somebody to take me across the border. And the next thing I remember, is arriving in Warsaw, looking for my cousin. Now, the address I had turned out to be an office of a building company. It was Stanisław Pacha building company, and it wasn't the address where my cousin lived or anything, because nobody gave anybody any addresses, because you constantly, even when you lived on forged papers, you never divulged your address, you never got any mail. You had to move often if you were uncovered, or if you had to move. So this was the address where my cousin was collecting her mail. That was the contact.
Do you remember what time of the year it was?
Well, it was already very cold, so it must have been already winter of 1943-44. Must have been end of 43.
So what happened at the office?
Now, when I knew then that this is my last. I had no more places to go, no more names. I had no papers. I had no money. It was absolutely the last, my last thing, and I knew it. I remember sitting in that office and knowing that, well, unless I find my cousin, I really, there is nothing more for me. I must find my cousin.
Did you know your cousin?
Yes, oh yes.
How old was she?
She must have been 8 years older than me. So she must have been 21. Must have been 21 at the time, yes.
So what happened when
So I, the principal of the company, Stanisław Pacha, I told him exactly who I was, and he was also a friend of my uncle from the ghetto, the uncle that arranged all the other, that arranged for me. And he told me that that he knows that the Będzin ghetto has been liquidated. He knows there hasn't been any news at all from my uncle, from the father of my cousin, or from any of the family. So he just must presume that they were taken to Auschwitz and that something's happened to them, that they're not around anymore.
Any news of your father?
My father was in Russia.
But did you know what had happened to him?
I knew he was sent to Siberia to a labor camp. It was, I mean, if you ask me if there's any news from a cosmonaut, if I had any news from the cosmonaut from the moon, I would more likely say yes than my father, as far as I was concerned, was not alive.
Okay, so what options did you have at this stage?
Well, I had no options. My only option was to find my my cousin, and when I told this man that Stanisław Pacha, that I have nowhere to go, I have no money, I have no food, I have no. This is why I must find my cousin, because I'm not moving from here unless I find my cousin, because I've got nowhere. Mr. Pacha told me that my cousin does occasionally contact him to check if there has been any news from the family. She hasn't come for quite a while, because she knew that the Benjin ghetto has been annihilated, and I said, well, I'm not moving until I find my cousin. So he took me home to his place. It's another hero. He took me home to his place, and he had a housekeeper there. I think his wife was away. I don't remember a wife there. I just remember the housekeeper, who was very, very good to me. And he put me in a broom cupboard to wait for my cousin to. When there was nobody at home, when it was her, I was coming out, the housekeeper was feeding me, and I was my cousin was not turning up. There was no news from my cousin. Now, Stanisław Pacha was a Volksdeutsch. That's a Pole that had German, that had a right to accept German nationality, sort of. And they had better terms than the Poles. They were allowed to have radios, and whereas Poles were not allowed to have radios. They were more or less on an equal footing with Germans, because they were of German origin. And now, in Warsaw at the time, the Polish underground was very, very strong, and a lot of those and any of the Poles that was with the Germans, that was not fraternizing, how would you say it, which was on good terms, was with the Germans, and that was doing harm to the Polish population, they were wiping them out. The Polish underground was now. This Stanisław Pacha, even though he accepted this German nationality and he became a Volksdeutsch, but he was very pro-Polish, and he employed in his office an architect, a young architect, who was in the Polish underground. and he allowed him every day to come to his home and listen to the BBC, listen to the radio. So this way he was protected. He was on good terms with the. So this Leonard Gliński, the young architect, was every day in that house, in that apartment, listening to the radio. And one day he found me. He came to my hiding place and he said to me, "Look, I don't know who you are, but all I know is you are in great danger. I've heard the Stanisław Pacha talk to his brother that they've got to get rid of you, that they're going to tell you they're taking you to your cousin, but they're going to take you to the forest and they're going to leave you there. They can't keep you here, they are petrified, they're risking their lives. I mean, they can't keep on hiding you. Your cousin, obviously, something happened, she has not. You need help and I can help you." So I said, "Well, I must find my cousin." He said, "Well, there's no way of finding your cousin because she hasn't contacted anybody. What I can do for you is I can get you papers. I can get you a paper, a document, an identity card, some sort of I can give you an identity. And with this identity, you will have more of a chance to and I'm going to talk to Stanisław Pacha and tell him that, threaten him that they've got to keep you here until I get you some identity. And in the meantime, if they tell you that they're taking you to your cousin, don't go. Under no circumstances, don't go." And I remember he brought a sheet home and he took a photo of me, and a few days later came with a baptism certificate on which my name was still Alina Potok, but everything else was incorrect. And I was 2 years older than I really was, which made me at that time 16 years, close to 16 years. Maybe I was 3 years older. I think 2 years older. So I was 14, 15. I was 13, 14. Yes, I was 15, 16. That's right. 15 going on 16 on those papers. And he must have gotten me another paper, something with a photo, which I don't remember. It wasn't, the papers weren't good enough to stay in Warsaw, because it wasn't like I wasn't registered anywhere. I had no food coupons. I wasn't. But again, the Polish underground had their own people in different places, and they also had their own people in a place where they were sending Polish workers to work for Germany. Now, there were volunteers, and there were also people caught on the street, just rounded up on the street and sent off to Germany to work. It's Poles. I'm talking from now on. I mean, I've become a Christian, a Polish Christian, and so because my papers weren't good enough to be in Warsaw, and because there was nobody in Warsaw that I could be with, there was nobody that I could live with. I had no food coupons, no friends, he arranged that I was sent as a volunteer to work for the German the German thing. That I remember quite clearly when I went to this place, and they gathered us all up, and they weren't all volunteers. There were lots of people that were caught on the street, like I said. There were lots of criminals, lots of underground people that they're trying to get out. Lots of different. It was quite a mixture. But what I remember is the first night in that big building where we were all waiting for the transport to be sent away to the labor camps. I remember at night we were. I was with some Polish girls that were older than me, and at night the Germans woke us up to come to a party, and I remember all the girls went very, very happily. It was and that I remember also quite a frightening thing, because the Polish girls, it was a big party, they were all drinking, and there were all kinds of things going on, which at that time I really didn't quite understand what it was, but I knew that I can't, that I'm not, that I'm scared of it, that I can't be part of it, that and I remember somehow hiding and not participating in that thing. And because I didn't participate, somewhere, somehow, the word got out that I must be Jewish. Also, because I spoke German, somewhere I must have given away that I understand it. Whereas in the part of Poland where I came from, there were more Poles speaking German, but there weren't many Poles speaking German, really. But in Warsaw, Poles did not speak German. So German, the word got out that I must be that I must be Jewish, because I just did not partake in that thing. And there again, I remember being very frightened, being really, these are quite vivid memories. But the next thing I remember, again, somebody must have helped me. I don't know who it was or how, but I remember at night being taken out of and put on a train with those forced, but not with the girls, and not. And I remember somebody in the train telling me, if you would have stayed another few hours in that place, they knew you were Jewish. You would have. They would have. You would not have survived. They would have. But that,
what would they have done?
Well, probably either shot me on the spot or sent me to Auschwitz.
Did you see people being shot there?
No, I didn't see people being shot there. But I also didn't see any Jews there. So, no.
Okay, so did you get on this train?
So I remember going on the train and somebody telling me how lucky I was that even though I was discovered, I managed to get away. I managed to get away. Got vague that somebody must have wished me well. Somebody must have helped me in that. It wasn't that I did something. It just anyway. I arrived in Vienna, in a camp. outside Vienna, where all the forced labor, even though I was so-called a volunteer, all the people were gathered, all the workers were gathered in that one camp, and from different industries, people were coming and picking the workers. Such a factory. And they were picking out the workers and taking them to their barracks or to their factories where they had a little camp, and because I was only not quite 14 years old yet, I was skinny, I wasn't strong enough, nobody wanted to pick me, nobody wanted to take me to work in any of in the factories.
Were you asked what kind of work you could do?
No, you're not asked. You were just taken, and then you were given the work, whichever work.
So what happened?
So I remember I stayed longer than anybody else in that camp, and the camp's doctor decided that he needed a housekeeper, and he took me home to work for him. Now, he lived with his old mother, and the mother was not normal. There was something, I don't know what. There was also something going on in that I don't know if in that apartment or probably in that apartment of his. I think he must have been doing abortions, because I know there was a room, the rooms that were closed. Anyway, I was locked up in a tiny room. My food rations were taken by the mother who was running the household, and I was really mistreated very, very badly. She was beating me, she wasn't feeding me, she wasn't giving me enough food. I remember there was one room where once she let me in to clean the windows or something, and it had bags of sugar. I remember when she wasn't looking, stealing the sugar to the... anyway, she mistreated me something terrible. She had this mania that her son was sleeping with me, or that the previous maid he had an affair with, and that he was going to have an affair with me. She wasn't normal. She was a sick person, and I was, when I wasn't working, I was locked up in a little cupboard, practically. And
did you have a bed?
Yes, I had a bed. Yes, I had a bed. And the doctor wasn't. He was quite nice. But he wasn't around. He wasn't there.
So why do you think he took you in there?
Because he needed a housekeeper for his mother. Because the other one, she didn't keep anybody for very long. So I don't know what she did with them, but so he needed. I remember one day he took me out for a walk in the park. He took me out of the house, and Yeah, while I was there, across the road, there was a factory. And in that factory, I could see Polish girls working. And they looked quite happy. They were quite, they were laughing. And at lunchtime, I saw them talking together. And they seemed to have and maybe I don't remember talking to them beforehand, but they looked like they had quite a good life in that factory. Anyway, at the doctor's, it was terrible. I told the doctor, by that time I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told the doctor the truth, that I'm not 16 years old, that I'm 14 years old, that I'm not, that I am Jewish. And I told him that was just the end. I didn't care what happened, but and I said, I can't stay with your mother anymore. She's treating me terrible. She's beating me badly, and I would like to go and work in the factory. I'd like you to. And again, he must have been a decent man, because that's what he did. And so I finished up in a metal works and a spring factory. It was for ammunition, it was and that, so I finished up. He did arrange for me that I could go and work for that factory. So they had their own little camp, like barracks, and they had one factory right near the barracks, another one a little bit further away. Anyway, I started working in that factory. Now, at the time, again, Vienna was being bombed, and when the air raids were on, the production wasn't going on. We had to go to air raid shelters. But each factory still had to keep their quotas, produce their quotas of whatever they were producing. Now, also, each factory had to send people to dig trenches in different parts for the German army in different parts and when the factory had to give workers for this digging of trenches, of course they chose the least productive ones to send off. And so I finished up being sent to dig trenches near Steiermark. I think it was somewhere on the Hungarian border, but I'm not sure. It was, I've got the address. It was near a little place called Rechnitz. So I was sent to dig trenches there. Now I dug trenches not for very long. Again, somebody took pity on me, and I finished up working in the kitchen peeling potatoes. And there were some local people which were good to me, which were feeding me. But I got very sick. I think, I don't know whether it was pneumonia or whatever it was. I got really, really sick, and I finished up in hospital back in Vienna.
Jarvin on April the 4th, 1995 in Sydney, Australia, and this is the 5th tape. Alina, you were telling me about you got sick, you think you got pneumonia. Can you tell me what happened when you got sick?
Yes, I remember being in a hospital. I was...
what hospital?
It was in Vienna. It seemed quite a nice hospital. I remember, I've got good memories of the hospital. It was...
Who looked after you?
I don't have any bad memories of it. I just remember being in hospital and it was quite good. I remember being air raids and having to go to the air raid shelter, but I don't remember any hardship in there. I think it was wonderful after digging trenches, and then this. I think the hospital was like going to a resort, to the most luxurious resort, I suppose. No, hospital was fine. When I got well, I was sent back to the factory, to the where I started off, to Johann Klinger, but this time to the factory, which was right next, which was in the camp, in the barracks, which was it was outside Vienna, and I was assigned again to a job. Well, actually, before I was working on a press, and I was helping to cart the big metal, the big boxes of those parts, anyway. And I was assigned to a machine where a Viennese woman, Greta, who was a factory worker, worked. It's been her job. She was and she liked me very much, and she started helping me very much. She was doing my work for me. She was bringing me food from her home, from her meager rations, and mainly she was doing my work for me, and she was just really taking care of me. She was very, very good to me. And when the Russians were approaching Vienna, and the little labor camp was disbanded, they told us they are not feeding us anymore, and they opened up, we can go. The factory is not working anymore, we can just go. And the street fighting was already, we could hear already that the Russians were approaching. She took me to her little place where she lived. She lived in a 1-2-room apartment. Her husband was somewhere on the Russian front. I don't know. I think he didn't. I think he was killed on the Russian front. Anyway, she took me, and she also took a man that worked in the factory, a French man, to her place. And I remember I was just petrified of the French man, that. And I remember he didn't like me. He was. She must have been in love with him. And anyway, I remember this terrible the fear. I was really scared of him. Now, the interesting part is that after the war I found out that he was Jewish, and she knew about it. But I did. Anyway, even though she was like a mother to me, I did not want to tell her who I am. I did not disclose my identity. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't want to put her in a situation that she might be scared or something. So my story was that I had a bad, that I was an orphan, that I had nobody. I had nobody in Poland. I had an uncle and auntie, but they weren't. I ran away from them. They no good, and I have nobody, and that's why I don't get any letters. I've got nobody, nobody to talk about, nobody to. She didn't ask many questions, and she just took me in. And we were together when the Russians entered, liberated Vienna. We were hiding in the cellar together from the Russians. And there was no food. Went out plundering. All I could bring back, I remember, is some jelly and some wine. And for a few days we lived on jelly made on wine. That was the food that we ate, because there was... Anyway, the Russians entering Vienna was no big deal for me, because I was just as afraid of the Russians as I was of the Germans. I was running away from the Russians. My father was taken away by the Russians, my mother was taken by the Germans. So to me, Russians was something to run away from, to certainly not something to that was no. And the war finished. I was still with Greta in her place, and she kept on saying to me, "You really should go back to Poland to see. Just go back." I said, "I've got nothing to go back to. I've got nobody to go back for." I was absolutely certain that I am the only Jew alive in the world, because to me, I mean, America was like, again, I think the moon is closer to me than America. I didn't know anything about America fighting. It was. To me was Russia and Germany, and here now I was in Russia again. So I really have nothing to go back to Poland for. I've got nobody. But she kept on nagging me that she said, "You always have got a home here. You can always come back here. If you come back here, I'll keep on working. I'll send you to school, and you can always stay with me. But just go." She obviously knew there was more to me to what I was telling her, but and she convinced me to. So I registered with the Polish. There was a Polish committee for repatriation to Poland.
Did you find it difficult to leave her?
No, I knew that I can come back to her, that she said that I've got a home there, and I just saw it as a excursion, and I suppose I planned that I'll come back and I spend the rest of my life with her, and was no. No, I don't remember. But I do remember, of course, not being with all the Poles that were being were going back to Poland, and not yet having admitted to anybody that I'm Jewish. Not yet, not to the Poles and not to Greta, whom I trusted. But I just put it behind me. It wasn't. That was finished. That was something that was I wasn't going to ever talk about, and I was so certain that I was the only one that survived. It was no. And I now I decided that I'll go back to my hometown, and the only person that I could think of that would be there, that would know who I am, well, the chauffeur, I didn't want to go because obviously I didn't have some very comfortable, and besides I didn't. But my French teacher. So
How did you get back to Benjamin?
well, at that time, just after the war finished, there were all those firstly people like me coming back from labor camp could travel without paying. It was very bad that the travel was very disrupted, and it took days to get from one place to another. You walked part of the way, you jumped on a train. But I remember I jumped from the train. I didn't. It took days. It took, or maybe even weeks to get back. But I remember the last bit to my French teacher's place. I was going on a tram, and this is when the war finished for me. And on the tram, there were two women speaking Yiddish. And that was the biggest shock, that there's somebody else alive and they're not scared to speak Yiddish on the tram. And that's what I immediately told the women, and again I was.
What did you say to them?
Well, I must have said that I'm Jewish.
What did they say?
I don't know what they said. I know that they gave me the lunch to eat. I remember I ate. They gave me something to eat, and it tasted very good. That's what I remember. That's all I remember. And well, that's when I realized that there's a world out there that I know nothing about. And I got to my French teacher. Now, my French teacher already knew a lot, all about me, but I've got to go back again to my father, who came back, who after serving nearly 5 years being nearly 5 years in a labor camp, serving nearly 5 years of his sentence, joined the Polish army under Russian command in Russia, and came to Poland with the Russians, with the Polish army under Russian command. And he got to Benjin, well, I don't know when Benjin was liberated, way before the war finished, and started looking for any survivors. Soon found out that my mother and his brothers, and that nobody survived. However, about me, he found out that I ran away from the railway station, and that I did not go to Auschwitz. Didn't know anything what happened after that, but that he knew. My mother's friend survived, and he was still in touch in Auschwitz with my mother, and his sister was in Auschwitz in the camp with my mother together, and she was with my mother when she died apparently during of typhoid. So my father started putting ads in the paper. Anybody knows about me, what happened to me, and there was nobody No, for a long time, weeks went by, no reply. And then one day, this Leonard Gliński, the architect that was in the Polish underground, that got me the papers and helped me go to Vienna, bought a loaf of bread, and it was wrapped in an old newspaper. And while eating the bread on the newspaper, he saw the ad that my father is looking for me. And he contacted immediately my father, and he told my father that he's been in touch with me while I was at the doctor. But then he lost touch with me, because when I wrote to him that I told the doctor everything, he did not correspond with me anymore. So all he knew was that I was at the doctor's and that I told the doctor everything, and that was the end of our communications. So my father, he was in an army uniform, he decided to go and look for me in Vienna. He had this address of the doctor. And through pulling lots of strings and lots of forged stamps and permits in a officer's uniform, he traveled, he went to Vienna looking for me. One little incident on the way, he was sitting in a compartment in the train with another Polish officer who said to him, "Things have been really tough, things were bad here, but one good thing the Germans did, they got rid of the Jews." And my father told me he took out a pistol and he told the man to jump from the train. He didn't shoot him, he just train wasn't going fast. So, but he just, anyway, father made it to Vienna, looked for the doctor ran away for some reason. That's what made me think that he did something. The doctor wasn't there, but the neighbors of the doctor said, yes, they remember me. They remember I went to work in the factory. He went to the factory. They told him, yes, I was very friendly with this Greta. She would know about me. He went to Greta, and he told her he was my father. Does she know? Did I tell her anything? And she said yes. She didn't question anything. And she told him that I'm on my way to Poland. And my father got back to Poland. He got back much quicker than I did. And in Poland, in Będzin at the time, everything was already normal. It was quite a few months already after the war had finished. People were working. It was already, life was more or less back to normal. And my father came back, and everybody knew that I'm on my way, and everybody was waiting for me. So when I turned up at the French teacher, she knew that she immediately contacted my father, who was not far away. He was in Sosnowiec. My auntie, my father was in the army somewhere else. Anyway, I went to my auntie to Sosnowiec, and my father was there. I was very sick then. I was sick for quite a long time.
What was wrong?
I don't know. I think it must have been something with my lungs. Anyway, I was very undernourished, and I remember that's what my cousin now, who she's younger than me, the one that lived with my auntie, is telling me that everybody was coming. I was very, very sick. I remember I was getting food every hour. I wasn't allowed to eat too much. I was in bed for quite a long time, and they said if I don't put on weight, but I regained my strength, and my father was at that time still with the Polish army. I joined him. He was near Warsaw Station.
What was the first time you saw him?
Well, I think when I got to my auntie.
Do you remember?
Yeah, but again, it wasn't. You see, my father, I hadn't seen my father for 5 years. I'd been on my own for 5 years. My father wasn't, you know, it was good. It was great, but I don't. I was more emotional about meeting my mother's friend. He was closer to me because he was with me in the ghetto with my mother. He was good to me. I remember him bringing me sweets. It was more. My father was a stranger. I mean, so much happened in between. It was no, but yes, he took me to where he was in the army, and I spent, I don't know if it was few weeks, probably wasn't very long there. And then my father, you see, decided that now that he found me, he wants to get out of Poland, get away as far as possible, and just put it all behind. And so he got out of the army, and again illegally we left Poland, again crossing on a truck, crossing a border through Austria. On the way we called into Vienna to see Greta, told her this whole story then, and then we finished up in Germany in a DP center, in a displaced person center.
Do you know what that was called?
Well, there was one before, but let's just, it's unimportant. It was in Starnberg, near Munich. And my father started immediately to look for possibilities to migrate to. And my father wanted to be as far away from Russia, as far away from Europe as possible. And the choices weren't that big. It was Canada, I think, and Australia. He had some acquaintances in Canada, and he asked them to apply for us, and some acquaintances here in Australia, and he asked them to apply for migration, to sponsor, to get us the papers. I, however, wanted very much to go to Palestine first, and I wanted to go to Israel.
Why?
Because the few friends that I made in Germany, while in Germany, I was learning a trade, because I knew I'm migrating. I won't be able to study, or I made attempts at going to school, but it wasn't very successful. And there was a Jewish school in Munich. I lived near Munich. I had a lot of friends there. I also had friends, students, Jewish friends, and I had a boy that I liked very much, and they all were going to Israel, and I wanted very, very much to go to Israel. However, my father had a sister in Israel who went in 1939, early 30s. Her husband was a founder of the Hebrew University. They came there to as founders of the Hebrew University, and she wrote after the war to my father that he should not attempt to come to Israel, that it's not a country for him, that it's much too hard, that after going through such terrible things, to go there and to have to fight and to go through hardships again, she definitely, and my father being rather assimilated, not everybody in there is more. She told my father that definitely not to even consider Israel, which made me very unhappy because I really wanted to. This is where my friends went, and that's. And we spent nearly 2 years in Germany waiting for the documents. And Australia, the acquaintances from Australia sponsored us, and the refugee organization paid for our trip, and we came out here in 1948, end of 1948, on an epic voyage of 11 weeks from Marseille, sailing on a ship from Marseille that took 11 weeks.
Who were the other people on the ship?
Well, there were lots of people. There was a big Jewish group. There was a group of Jewish orphans at that time, and there were also other nationalities. There were some Greeks on the boat. It was a chartered boat. Boat belonged to Stavros. Was a horrible boat. It hardly moved. But again, it was fun.
Where did you arrive in Australia?
It must have been November 1948.
And which port?
We arrived in Melbourne. The boat never made it to Sydney. Apparently, it sank on the way. It sank on the way back, and then we arrived in Sydney by train, and with the help of my father's acquaintances, we sort of settled here. I got a job straight away in a shirt factory. And
what sort of reception did you get from Australian people?
Australian people, very bad. They didn't like us at all. They didn't like anybody that spoke another language. Whenever going to work, if I spoke Polish, there's always somebody would say, "Why don't you bloody well learn English?" I couldn't. Took me a long time to learn.
How did you learn it?
Just picked it up. There was at that time, maybe they were. At that time, I don't think there were any courses like nowadays that migrants get taught. No, I just worked.
Where were you living?
I was living in a little room, in different little rooms in the Bondi area.
And where was the factory?
Opposite the eye hospital at Railway Square. It was actually Harry Seidler's parents' Textra shirts.
And did you make friends easily, or what?
Well, we sort of kept on picking up people. You'd hear on the street somebody speak Polish, and you would start talking to them, and the people found each other. That's how most of us just found each other by. Some people knew each other beforehand, but it took a while. It took quite a long time.
on April the 4th, 1995, and this is the 6th tape. Alina, you started working in Australia in a shirt factory. What happened after that?
Well, after that, I met what was to become my husband, my ex-husband. He came very much from the same background. Our parents knew each other. His parents didn't survive. He survived with his older brother. He comes from Krakow. And he was at the time also working in a factory. And I was living with my father. But I was very, very keen to start a life of my own. My father at the time had also formed a relationship with a lady who was to become his wife, and he had his own life, and I wanted to get on with mine, and so we got married in 1951. It's, what, 3 years? I think we knew each other just 49, him 51. Anyway, it was really me who wanted to get married, because my life wasn't very I wasn't happy with my life the way I was living. I had to do something on my own, and in those days, with 18 when I came here, I just felt like starting, so I got married, and we both worked, and as my ex-husband spent some time in England and spoke English well, so he was the first one to really get a job better than factory work. And
what sort of work?
Well, he was working for an importer and looking for lines that he could develop, and then he found the lines that they could develop, and he was running it for this business for this man, and it took 5 years. We lived in a furnished apartment for which we had to pay key money to get it. That was a wedding present of my father. And I mean, we couldn't afford to pay the rent, but we rented out one room. It was a 2-bedroom place, so we rented out one room. We both worked, and it was quite a good life. And after 5 years of marriage, by that time I was already working in an office. I already had my first office job in a small textile wholesaler. I was Girl Friday. I was doing everything, invoicing, packing, whatever. And my husband was running this business was running Stallman and Company. We could and my husband's boss said that if I stop work, he's going to supplement my husband's income so that we can start having a family. So I stopped working at that time and had the first child. That was in 1956. Then things developed with my husband, and he decided he had the opportunity to go out on his own, to start his own business, which we started together. And that was in foundry supplies, in fluxes, foundry fluxes. And so I started working with my husband. And then we had a second child 3 years later, and I continued working with my husband. After 16 years of marriage, our marriage broke down. We split up. And yeah, by that time I was working in the fashion trade. I was working for a fashion trade publication as a advertising manager for a fashion trade publication, and I found the going pretty hard, because the clothing manufacturers are not the easiest lot to work with. And my colleague at the other desk was working for travel trade publication. She was working for travel trade. I was working for Fashion Week, and she for travel trade. And her paper was much more interesting than mine, and I just liked it very, very much. And I thought that's the industry I really would like to get into. Yeah, by that time I already had my first trip overseas. Shortly before my marriage broke up, I had my first trip to Europe. Really, I saw Europe for the first time, really. And
did you go to any of the places you had been before?
Not on that. I went to, I didn't on that trip. I really went looking for my old friends. I went to Israel, I went all over the place, to America and to Mexico, finding all my old friends. But I realized that I do like travel. I like it much better than the fashion industry, and it's an industry I'd like to get into. So I got into the travel industry. I worked. I started off with Paxton Travel in the city. After 18 months, I was sent out to manage Paxton's Double Bay office, and after about 3 years there, I opened up Astronaut Travel in Double Bay in partnership with Sol Brenda. I was a minor partner. But I had the run of the office. It was my office. I had the say in it. It was, and I worked there for 12 years, and that's where I met my friend Ben Sherman, and we spent the next 10 years together, which were really the best years of my life. I left travel to help Ben with his business, and unfortunately 8 years ago. Ben passed away. And since then I ran Ben's manufacturing business. We were supplying hotels with bathrobes, also manufacturing shirts. I ran it for a few years, but it wasn't something that I liked or that I could do. And I left that, and now I'm still part-time in travel, but I also help my son in his business. I work a couple of days a week in a video shop, and one day a week I go to the Jewish Museum, where I work as a historical relic.
Did your travels take you back to Poland at any stage?
Yes, well, that's another funny story. I always said that I never want to go back to Poland. It doesn't interest me. I crossed it out of my mind. I forgot about it. I didn't want to talk about it, think about it. But jokingly, I always said that I'll go back to Poland if they invite me, if they pay for me, if they put out the red carpet, and if they give me special treatment. And what happened was that I was invited as an Australian travel agent on a travel agent's educational, first travel agent's educational, organized by Lot Polish Airlines and Qantas to Poland. So I was taken in first class to Poland, and the red carpet was taken out, and I was wined and dined and shown Poland as an Australian travel agent. And I had very mixed feelings about it, because there I was, yes.
Did you go to Benjamin?
Yes, when we got to Krakow, I got a taxi, and I went to Benjin. I got to the middle of Benjin and looked around me. I didn't see one single face that I felt like talking to, that looked that I'd like to talk to, and I went to the place where we lived, where the war started, and there was a military headquarters there, and the soldier came out and said, "What you looking here?" And I said, "Well, I used to live here." And he said, "Well, you couldn't have, because nobody is alive." I said, "Well, I am." And that was it, and I just left. I don't think I spent 5 minutes in Benjin. That was the extent of it.
Did you go to Auschwitz?
No.
Your son's grown up living in Sydney.
Yes, I've got two adults.
What do they know of your experiences during the war?
Well, they say they know it. They know it all. They don't want to hear about it, and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want me to talk about it. They feel very well. We brought them up this way. It was, my husband went through a lot too, and we really didn't want to burden our children with anything. We never talked about it. Actually, I never talked about anything until about 2 years ago.
What changed?
What changed it? When I applied for the 2 years ago, I think there came the possibility of a German restitution pension, and I qualified. I saw that I qualified for it because I qualified for it. So I got the forms and I had to sit down and write down where I was during the war. So that was the first time that to me, that I think, but obviously it wasn't. I must have talked about it before. And I wrote it down, and then I went back to the offices there, and somehow a friend of mine said, "Come into the museum, we need you," and I got involved. I'm involved, but really very much as an outsider. I'm not, and I don't know. I think that when I finish this, I also might finish my being at the museum. I think.
Why do you say that?
Because I want to put it all, just put it away, and I've said, and maybe in few years' time, when I won't be so busy, when I won't be so active, when I won't be able to earn money, when my time will be, I might return to the museum. But I somehow feel that for now, I want to just rest it for a while. Father was 80, and that was I don't know how old. That was my great-grandfather. My father would have been 80. It must have been an 18.
Can you point to your great-grandfather?
This is my great-grandfather.
And who else is in the picture that you
I
like?
think that this is my grandfather.
What were their names?
My great-grandfather's name was Joachim David Potok.
This is the banker.
Yes. And my grandfather's name was Ferdinand Potok.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about the other ones.
It's okay. Okay. Can you say who's in those?
Yes, this is my grandfather Ferdinand Potok and my grandmother Gustava.
Thank you.
I'm trying to look to see.
No. Who's in this picture?
Now, this is my grandfather and grandmother, and my father's brothers and sisters, and my father, who was the youngest here. And these are all uncles and aunts.
Thank you. Alina, who's in this picture?
This is a photo of my mother, whose name was Rachel Niemiec, but she was known always as Ella.
Thank you. Who's in this picture?
This is my mother in the middle and her two sisters.
What were their names?
One is Bella and the other one is Salka, I think.
Do you know what happened to them?
Yes, Bella actually survived in Russia under Russian. She was deported to Russia. Salka was killed in Warsaw.
Thank you. What is this document?
This document is my birth certificate. It's a copy taken out in September 1940 of my birth certificate, and it's got writing in Polish, and then the German writing that it's a true act of.
Thank you. Alina, what is this document?
Yeah, this is my birth certificate taken out in 1945, in July 1945. That's the original.
What is the stamp on there?
Just says that it was issued by the authority it was issued by Benjamin.
Thank you. Alina, can you tell me about this photo?
Yes, this is, I think I was 6, 7, 8 months old here. It was taken in a resort.
Thank you. Who's in this photo?
This is my grandfather and my mother, and then there are other members, my auntie and my father's cousins, and it's me on the right hand side with the nanny. And
What did you call the nanny?
Detta.
And who else is in the picture?
And there's my cousin with his nanny. It's all family, a family. Oh, the end is also my auntie and her daughter, my cousin.
Thank you. Who is in this picture?
That's my mother and me.
What do you remember of your mother at that time?
Nothing.
What's this picture?
That I think is in Benjin in the park near the castle.
How old were you?
Don't know.
Okay.
Maybe there's a.
Alina, what's in this picture?
Well, that was taken in 1939, a few months before the war started. It was taken in this ski resort.
Do you know where it was?
Yes, in Zakopane.
What's the bear?
It's a man dressed up as a bear for photographs.
What's in this document?
This document is a passport which my parents have obtained at the beginning of the war. It was a document with which they hoped when they get out of Poland they'll be able to go to some neutral country.
Thank you.
The Judenrat.
Who is in this picture?
This is a photo of in the offices of the Judenrat in Benjin before it actually the ghetto was formed. It was during the time of the Jewish, just before the ghetto.
And who is the woman standing in the center?
That's my mother.
What was her role there?
I don't know. I think she worked in the office.
Okay. Alina, what is this photo?
This is the last photo taken of my mother and me, and I only just realized that it's got a date and a message at the back. My mother is wearing the chain which she gave to me, which started me on my journey.
Thank you. Read it now.
Now this photo, the writing is dated the 17th of January 1943. Now August 43 was when I was separated from my mother. On this card my mother says, my dear ones, you surely will be very surprised that I've got that I'm so light-headed and I take photographs, but I needed them. With us, thank God, there are no changes. We live and we are healthy. As you can see, together with Alinka, we look very well. then there is a sentence that somebody there is my working friend, a working colleague. Be of good spirit. I send you regards and I kiss you, Ella and Alina.
And where was that photo sent to?
If I knew. No idea. My father was alive. I would have, but again, I wasn't interested before. My father died 11 years ago. I would have known, but I don't know. Somebody who obviously, maybe it was, could it have gone to Palestine? To my, I have no idea.
I mean, do you think it could have been written in the camp, where they had to write and say everything is fine?
No, it was written in the. It was written in the ghetto.
Yeah.
It was written in the ghetto. Still, to me, those photos look like they are made for a document. I vaguely remember that the photo is made for a document. You know, whether it was sent. Maybe it was sent to. I don't know. No idea.
Alina, what is this?
This is my document that I'm working in the Johann Klinger factory. It's my works.
What year and how old were you?
Well, that must have been in 1944. I was 14 years old.
And is that in Vienna?
Yeah, yes, that's in Vienna.
Okay, thank you.
And the stamp, here's the Polish committee after the war already.
Tell me about this card.
Well, this is my identity card after the war, when we lived in the DP center in Starnberg. It was right. This was issued to everybody. It was just an identity card that registered at the DP center in Starnberg.
Where was Starnberg?
Starnberg was near Munich in Bavaria. We lived there for nearly 2 years waiting to migrate.
Can you read the date on that, please?
That was issued in February 47.
Okay, thanks. Alina, who's in this picture?
That's my oldest son, Michael, with one of his latest toys. He's got about 7 different ones.
How old is he?
Michael
in
is
this picture?
38.
And when was it taken?
Just recently.
And where does he live now?
He lives with me at present.
Thank you. Who is this, Alina?
That's my son Stephen, and his hobby is sailing, and he's a world-class sailor, has sailed all over the world.
How old is he in this picture?
He is 35.
Thank you. Who are these children?
These are my 2 grandchildren, Sevi and Mark. Taken, I would say, 3 years ago. Sevi is now 9, and Mark is 5.
Okay. Who is in this picture?
This is me on my 50th birthday with my friend Ben, with whom I've spent the best years of my life.
Was Ben aware of what you'd been through in the war?
Yes, yeah, yes, but again, no details.
What was his background?
He was born English Jew. His grandparents grandparents or parents came from Russia, Poland.
Thanks.
But he spent many years in America.